Sometimes, depending on what the investigation entails, you're getting some information from children that can be pretty upsetting. So sometimes I do what's called forensic interviews of children, where you're interviewing them regarding some pretty significant either sexual abuse or physical abuse in their life.
And the emphasis on forensic interviewing is not to lead children to say something. The point being, obviously, to gather the information from them or to get from them if something happened, what is it, and then make sure you're getting all the details around that incident. What we typically do we ask the parent, caregiver, whoever it is, to bring them to our office. These are interviews that are done on site when they can be done appropriately. We have a special room we use for it. The reason it's special is there's not a lot on the walls. There's not a lot of distraction. It's comfortable. There's couches in there for them to sit on. Child comes in, as I do little talking with anybody. At the beginning, I introduce myself out in the lobby to everybody, and then I say, you know what, me and the child, we're going to go talk right now. We'll be back out in a little bit. So I go back with the child. We come into the room. I've already kind of started going, hey, how's your day going? What have you been doing today? You know what I mean? Kind of start chit-chatting. When we get into the room, it's really about that rapport building with the child, is helping them feel comfortable with you. I'm a stranger. They have no idea who I am. They might not have any clue what they're there to talk about or what we're talking about. So as soon as we get in the room, I have them, we've got paper, that's the big sticky pad paper up on the wall. We've got markers, and I'll say, hey, let's put your name up here in big letters. Do you want to do it? You want me to do it? Have them write their name down. I haven't met you before. Can I ask you some questions about yourself? How old are you? What grade are you in? What's your favorite thing about that grade? Just get talking. And then the next question we're going to go to is tell me who you live with. Who all lives in your house with you? So we go through the different family members. Always want to talk about their pets. Absolutely, those are family members. Just keeping it going. And then how we introduce that, we're there to talk about sexual abuse. So how do we go from, having this pleasant conversation, asking them about themselves, getting them comfortable, to, okay, now I need to look at, did something inappropriate happen to this child? So the transition at that point becomes, and my job is to talk to kids, make sure kids are safe. And sometimes when I talk to kids, we talk about body parts. Is that okay if we talk about body parts today? Yeah, they usually say yes. Sometimes they say no. We have what are referred to as anatomical drawings. They're drawings we have a female and a male, and they're just all the parts. And what I tell kids is, once they get past the mortification of, I know, it's embarrassing. I say, I just want to make sure that I understand what words you're comfortable using for body parts. Is it okay if we go through these body parts? Yep. So I'll start, if the younger the kid, I'll circle like the mouth, the ears, you know what I mean? So the focus isn't just on, the genitals and such. So, but getting at, here, what's your word for this? And kids, I say, use what word you want to use, not what you think, so there's an array of words that kids use for those parts. After we've gone through that, then I'll say, okay, now that we've talked about parts, can we talk about touches? Are there places on your body that are not okay for people to touch? That's how we're usually entering into, if there's going to be a disclosure, that's usually when we're there. Some kids will come in, sit down, and you'll say, do you know what you're here to talk to me about? Yeah, I'm here to talk to you about what so-and-so did to me. Okay, tell me about that. So once you're at that point of a disclosure, or yes, something happened, then it's guiding them through that, wanting them to be telling you, not, you know what I mean? So, yes, something happened, somebody touched me. Can you tell me about that? Where were you when that happened? Was anybody else there when that happened? What was going on?
And you have to take your body language and not let your body language react to what they're telling you, which can be very difficult because children read your body language. And if you look like you're getting upset about what they're telling you, they stop telling you. So you have to really be able to work with children and be able to, keep that information, not pull that information internally into your, self. You're there to interview them, talk to them, and get as much information as you can. If you're able to do that, you're able to protect the child more. If you can't close off your body language, then you're going to struggle. I think I always just think, I'm here. If I can't do this I'm not able to help them. So if you think about it that way, and not, I'm always thinking about the next question that I need to talk to them about instead of putting what they're saying into my head, if that makes sense. So when they're talking about their sexual abuse and they're talking about it pretty descriptively, I won't pull that information into, I won't process that information until after I'm done. So then I'll process it later on. So it's just, it's almost like law enforcement when they have to be out at a pretty significant crisis. They do their job, and then later on they process it.
Any worker that starts in the investigative assessment unit is not allowed to do sexual abuse interviews until you go through an extensive training at Corner House. Corner House is a facility that conducts forensic interviews of children, but they train their method across the nation. Actually, I think they've gone worldwide before, or whatever, their techniques for interviewing children. So it's an intensive week-long training that you go through. And, the main thing with forensic interviews, as well as all the interviews that we do with children, but the focus and the emphasis on forensic interviewing is not to lead children to say something that, so from ages 3 to 17, you gain a skill set in how that lands for each age group. Specifically, that's the biggest part of the training is how are you going to interview a 3-year-old versus how you're going to interview a 10-year-old versus how you're going to do an interview with a 16-year-old.